Here we go. And we're live. Welcome to Cappuccino Cunnilingus episode number 19. This week I am sitting down with the owner and longtime comic book enthusiast, Mr. Rick Shea. Shea, correctly?
You got it.
Yeah. We're just gonna do about an hour and a half of 100% geek news today. Everything from Marvel, DC, comics and TV shows to Walking Dead to Star Wars, you name it, it's gonna come up. So let's just dive right into it. First huge thing I wanted to talk about, going back to May, was Civil War with Marvel. This is their first real attempt at taking a well-known comic book story arc and producing it for the big screen. And they have pretty much their entire roster that they've announced so far that have had movies or appearances in movies come in for this one.
Right, you got it.
And it's I want to say it's leaving box office within the next week or two, and they just passed 400 or 500 million domestic. So they're way past $1 billion globally, but they just passed this point, and I think they're going to go for one final push before they leave. So I think having characters like Spider-Man, like Black Panther show up in that movie really gave it that push. Has there been any at least with the new Civil War comic book that's coming out, has there been any crossover between the two that you've seen people coming in for?
Yeah, we've definitely seen people come in because of the Civil War movie. Of course, the movie was a giant hit and everyone loved it. It was pretty universally acclaimed and everyone enjoyed it quite a bit. We did really well with the Black Panther comic that just came out. There are only 2 issues in, and both issues have sold better than expected and gone to reprints. And that's definitely a character people really enjoyed. Everyone loved the take on Spider-Man in there, like a fresh take rather than having a 30-year-old pretending to be 15 or in high school or whatever. Actually getting a younger kid to play the actual age he is pretty amazing. And that paid off really well towards the sense of humor and everything. But yeah, we definitely have seen in our store, we've seen Civil War pay off in getting people to check out both the Civil War II comic and the Black Panther book, and even some other, and we certainly sold our fair share of Civil War leading up to it and even after it, so people can see kind of how it goes. The movie, for a second there at the end of the movie, I thought it was going to end closer to how the Civil War comic ended, or the real payoff is after Civil War graphic novel, but for a minute I thought it was going to end that way, and then I thought, oh, is this going to end the opposite way of the comic? But I definitely was really, really happy with the movie and thought it had some phenomenal moments and was one of the best comic movies we've seen so far.
And it's a contrast to what happened with Batman v Superman, huge contrast, where
right.
It's still, Batman v Superman still did 800 or 900 million globally,
right? But
people were projecting it to make whole lot more, because
right.
This is our first chance to see the holy trinity of comic
right.
books on screen.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, seeing on one hand, I gotta say I'm a hardcore DC fan. I was more excited about Batman vs Superman than anything, and as it got closer and critics started paying it, and just it doesn't have quite the same acceptance from everybody and anticipation that Civil War did, but at the same time it's not like they adapted a straight comic book. Civil War was an amazing job of adapting one of the best comic book stories of all time, one of the most commercially successful comic stories of all time, into a new into the film, and they did a great job with it. Whereas Batman vs Superman, I kind of almost wish they'd taken more from the some of the best Batman Superman stories, and the movie was indeed maybe a little too dark and too dreary. But as it stands going forward, I think having Jeff Johns directly involved with the comic book movies on the DC side, he's the best thing to happen to DC Comics in ages, and he's probably written most of the best of the event books of DC the last 15 years. He's just absolutely killed it. Hasn't written a bad book yet, and having Jeff Johns in charge of the movie division, I think, is going to definitely lead to better, brighter future for the DC movies going forward.
And we'll see that coming up with Suicide Squad.
Right. Yeah. Suicide Squad. It's kind of funny. I think that'll be. I know some people were kind of turned off by the initial. The initial stuff of, why does Joker look like that, or why what's up with this dark. Again, a movie that looks dark, but overall I think it's going to be a pleasant surprise, and I think people really like it, and it'll it's kind of funny that Suicide Squad seems like almost more upbeat out of the two movies versus taking Superman and Batman, two of the most universally recognized characters everyone knows and loves, but making such a dark movie out of it. So I do think Suicide Squad will be really well received, and I think going forward with Jeff Johns being co-writing the Batman movie with Ben Affleck and working on just the overall DC universe going forward. Really, he's probably going to be the one writing the second Justice League movie and everything going forward from there. So as long as it doesn't take him out of comics completely, we kind of need him still in this industry. But I couldn't think of someone better to move those characters forward. He just gets the DC characters better than anyone.
And with I like to draw the comparison between, at least, from what I've seen so far, I like to compare Suicide Squad to Guardians of the Galaxy, at least from Marvel's side.
I agree.
From what we've seen, it's this ragtag group of, anti-heroes almost.
Right.
That, they never really had their place, but now they come together to form this team to, help the greater good, essentially. Like they'll still be messing stuff up along the way, but it's about coming together for the team.
Yeah, I agree. And same thing, I think a lot of people, before Guardians came out, a lot of people were like, oh man, who the hell are these characters? Who's going to care about these guys? There are no Avengers or, even X-Men or Spider-Man known quantities, and yet Guardians ended up being, I think, the biggest movie that year. And just everyone who went in not knowing what to expect loved it when it was all said and done. So, as far as, I feel like this is the same. Obviously, everyone knows Harley Quinn and Joker, but at the same time, I think going forward, by the time this movie's come out, everyone will really enjoy these characters and go, I want to know more about this character or that one, or not just Harley and Joker, but the whole obscure, cast of characters, and especially those that survive. So there's definitely going to be some chaos and some death in a movie called Suicide Squad, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's always been one of my favorite groups of DC villains, kind of forced to kind of do where they know if they go off mission, they've got this implant that will kill them or whatever. So it'll be interesting going forward and seeing how the movie is received, and I hope it does definitely is a big surprise hit this year, like just like Guardians was a few years ago.
I think it will be. In regards to more like Marvel film news, they had just started. I wanted to say post-production. I was like, no, that's not the right word. Principal photography for Spiderman Homecoming this week. Guardians of the Galaxy wrapped principal photography up in Atlanta, and as they were leaving, cast and crew of Spider-Man were coming in. There was, I'll see if I can put it in, a picture of James Gunn, Chris Pratt, and Tom Holland together in front of the studio where they were shooting.
Awesome.
And it's like a little gift to everybody. Be like, hey, we're really happy that this is becoming something very real and stuff like that. But lots of casting news has come out within the past few days, even. So I'm just going to rattle down the list of the cast so far that's been announced and confirmed. Of course, we have Tom Holland reprising his role as Spider-Man, Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man. We have Michael Keaton, who most of us know as Batman.
Of course.
Most critics probably know him better as Birdman. We have singer-performer Zendaya. I don't really know much about her, but to me, she seems like a good character to have on. Michael Barberry, I've heard his name before a couple times, and he seems like he has some good acting chops, so I'm ready to see where it goes. Kenneth Choi and Tony Revolori, something like that. New add-ons that came this week. Of course, Marissa Tomei coming back as Aunt May. Wonderful actress. Her and Robert Downey Jr. have previous work together, so I'm really excited to see where that relationship goes, especially with their little back and forth in Civil War. It was really funny to see Tony Stark and Aunt May almost kind of hit it off in the living room.
Right, that part was awesome. Yeah, definitely.
And of course, this week's castings come up with Donald Glover, who most people, when Sony released that they weren't going to be making Spider-Man anymore, people were hoping that he would come in and play Miles Morales.
Right.
He was definitely top of the list for a lot of people. So him getting a role in this movie, I think, is a nod to the fans. They're like, all right, yeah, we're listening. We're gonna put him in this just to see where he can go. Martin Starr, new to the acting scene for this movie. Logan Marshall Green, also new name I haven't heard of before. Interesting casting. Hannibal Buress, the comedian. He was the guy that dropped all the news about Bill Cosby. So,
wow.
I think it's interesting to bring him into something like this.
Right. Yeah, all of his Netflix specials his comedy specials are hysterical. He kills it on Broad City. Always very funny. So it's gonna be interesting seeing him in a superhero movie. It's gonna be kind of funny,
I want to see him in like at the high school, being like a teacher or something.
Right.
I kind of want him to be like the sassy like teacher. It's like, Parker, what you doing,
right?
Man?
Yeah, I can see that.
And then to wrap it out, Isabella Amara, Jorge Ledebort Jr. I'm probably butchering that name. JJ Toda, Salinas Levia, Abraham Ada, and Michael Mando are all confirmed cast for Spider-Man Homecoming. Also cast just today, Bokeem Woodbine. From what it appears, it looks like they're really pushing a diversity cast with this movie.
Right.
Just from all the names that were mentioned, they're really trying to show like, all right, this is what Queens is. This is where he goes to school.
Right.
This is how New York actually looks. So I'm glad that they're going for more authentic. Where even in Tobey Maguire's first Spider-Man movie, completely fucking whitewashed.
Yeah, exactly. most definitely.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't really think there's much more Marvel news. Guardians of the Galaxy had a couple characters announced, but pretty standard characters. Like, we're getting Mantis, so
right. Cool.
It's a huge hit for some comic book fans that liked the War of Kings, I believe. I think she appeared in that, and then she had also played a role in it was the other book I read. I can't remember the name, but it was a good book, and I really liked how her character progressed. Let's see. You want to jump back over to DC movies real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Like we said, Suicide Squad's coming. What else did we have coming up with DC? Oh yeah, Killing Joke animated movie. I'm gonna be going to the screening up in Orlando in July. It's gonna be my first time actually taking in that story.
Cool.
So I'm really excited to see and hear Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill,
oh yeah,
Tara Strong,
right?
Like your quintessential voice actors for the Batman universe.
Most definitely, yeah. Killing Joke is hands down one of the best comic books of all time. Just phenomenal story, and for every character, there's a few standout stories. For Batman, there's like 25 must-read graphic novels, but this is definitely in the top 5 or top 3 even, because it's just might be the best Joker story ever, and that's saying a lot because they haven't overdone the Joker where you get sick of him, but it seems like they'll give him enough time off between having him actually come back and do something. But Killing Joke is hands down one of the best comic stories of all time. Very brave, and yeah, very wild that they're going ahead making this the first R-rated animated movie, and just doing some cool stuff there where they're not, they didn't water it down and go, oh hey, we're missing that younger audience and stuff. So it's definitely not something you could water down and keep the real feel of the story. So I do have faith that having an R-rated version of it, it's going to be on the right track and everything they need to do with it. So yeah, I'm really excited with the phenomenal voice cast. It should be really, really good.
It's got me excited. Probably after I go see it, I'm probably going to come back and try to find a copy of the actual book to read.
Right.
I'd love to get my hands on that book.
Oh yeah, we've sold tons of them, and it's one of those things that just constantly having to reorder pretty much every week. Order a few more copies. But I think the guy we just had there was a DC Comics meeting, and someone that was able to see the finished product before they added the last few touch-ups, and he was like, oh man, no matter what you order on this, trust me, you're going to want more. When people see this movie, they're going to be, he said it's probably the most proud he's ever been of being involved with any of the animated movies, so that's saying a lot. So yeah, really, really excited about it.
Even Mark Hamill, very active on Twitter, he's been very happy with it, and just been you guys are going to be very happy with this. I'm really proud to show you what we've done, and just working with Kevin again, he was very happy to get to do that.
Right. So. Awesome. Very cool.
And other than that, I don't know, how into the DC animated movies are you? Do you watch them when they come out?
I watched a good chunk of them, not as many as I should. It's kind of sad how many of these things I've read in the original comics and haven't made the time to dive into all the 90-minute movies and stuff. So yeah, I've seen probably about half, maybe a little more than half of the DC movies, but and Marvel animated stuff I haven't seen very much of it all. But DC I haven't dove in near as much as I should. But everything I've seen I've really enjoyed so far.
Because the last DC animated movie that came out, and I was able to watch it online, was Justice League versus Teen Titans.
Right.
And do you care about spoilers?
Oh no, I don't. Yeah, no, not at all.
Their tag at the end of the movie, once you go to the credits, is Terra flying in on a rock to
nice.
Titan's Tower.
Awesome.
Because they basically reset the universe after Trigon attacks.
Right.
So. That's her coming into the story now. I think they're going to start to move forward with that storyline a little bit with their animated movie. So I'm really excited to see Terra come back finally after years of having to wait for the actual good Teen Titans show.
Right.
That got canceled.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to see where her character can go in a PG-13 or possibly even a rated R type of scenario, because they could possibly even do Judas Contract.
Yeah, I was hoping they announced that ages ago, and it originally looked like it was going to be the first DC movie years ago, and just for some reason just never happened. And yeah, the fact that the Judas Contract graphic novel's out of print is kind of frustrating. That's definitely Teen Titans is my absolute favorite group of all time in the history of comics. So as far as superhero stuff, and it's a shame to have what's arguably the best Titan story ever and not be available, which is kind of frustrating, especially and Deathstroke's hands down my favorite character, has been for 20 or 25 years now, and to not have that story available for people is kind of frustrating. So
yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
He's been your favorite character for probably a little bit longer than I've been alive.
Right? Yeah, indeed, he is definitely. I'm just glad to see these last few years between Arrow and even 10 years ago on Identity Crisis, when Brad Meltzer showed people what a badass character he is.
Identity Crisis was such a good book.
Oh, that's one of my favorite things I've ever read. So yeah, definitely right up there with Watchmen and Why the Last Man as my my favorite movies, our favorite graphic novels of all time.
So let's jump over to the TV universe. We'll start off with DC TV. We had a couple weeks ago, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, DC Warner Brothers announced their TV show slate for the fall, and it's going to be the same schedule that they had this past year, but new additions and different times and stuff like that. We're going to have Supergirl on Monday nights,
right,
coming over from CBS to the CW. Flash is going to remain on Tuesday nights. Arrow is going to remain on Wednesday. And Thursday nights are going to be Legends of Tomorrow. Interestingly enough, casting news happening for Supergirl. We are getting our definitive Superman for for that show and in that universe. They haven't said anything about bringing her into necessarily Earth 1 yet. She's still sitting around like Earth 4, I guess.
Right.
Whichever Earth she decides that she wants to say she's from. But looks like our definitive Superman for that show is going to be Tyler Hoechlin from Teen Wolf. And, he's got the salmon ladder thing down with Stephen Amell.
Right.
So I'm really excited to see him come out for Superman. I think he's a great addition.
Yeah, he looks the part. I haven't seen him in anything previously, but he's got the look down. So hopefully, he's, he can live up to the giant portrayal of such a major character. So should be good.
And then yesterday we also got confirmation of Linda Carter being the president on the Supergirl TV show, which as somebody who watched like a lot of older TV, like Batman 66 and Batman the Animated Series, and even sitting through a little bit of Wonder Woman back in the day, I think that her coming on is a great addition, and them coming back and being like, hey, Mark Hamill, why don't you come back as the Trickster? John Wesley Shipp, would you like to be Barry Allen's dad in The Flash? I think it shows that these people are really happy with what came before and really want to incorporate that into what they have now. And I don't know. I think having her be the president is reaffirming to this is an all girls universe. It's really about just bringing in an aspect that can be lost in TV shows like The Flash and Arrow, and even a little bit in Legends. You have White Canary and you have Hawkgirl, but they kind of play second fiddle to Captain Cold, Heatwave, the Atom, Rip Hunter, Firestorm. Even they play second fiddle to these characters, even though they have the ability to stand out on their own. So I'm really excited to see Linda Carter come on as president. I think we might see more casting news coming from that show. If there's anything you'd like to add to that, like for Linda Carter being cast as the president.
I think it's an exciting casting announcement. It was definitely something that I figured it'd be only a matter of time till we saw her on one of the shows. But yeah, it's definitely pretty cool casting. I'm excited for it.
Now with going over, we'll just go down the line. Flash. We have lots of news coming out with Flash. Grant Gustin has tweeted that, at least for now, the first episode of the third season is going to be titled Flashpoint.
Right. Which,
after the events of the season finale for season 2, it really makes sense. He's gone back in time. He saved his mom from dying. What's gonna be the big change now when he goes back? Is Harrison Wells gonna be alive? Is it gonna be any? Is there gonna be any reclamation in the universe with any of these heroes or villains? Are people going to change? I think it's good for them to do this. I think it's a little early.
Right.
I think they could have waited till maybe season 5 to do it.
Right.
So that way they could be closer to the Flash movie.
Right.
But I think this is a good jumping off point to where they could be like, hey, while you're waiting for this movie, come check out our stuff.
Right.
So that way you can get prepared to what you're going to see later.
Right. Yeah, I would be shocked if there's not at least some major, some character we actually like either ends up dead or a bad guy instead of a good guy or something. We had the one episode earlier this season of Flash season 2 that he disappears, he comes back, and I think it's Hartley is a character we hadn't seen in a while that was already dead or is suddenly there and back helping him again, and you're like, wait a minute, what? And like nobody else notices, but he's like, wait, that's not where. Okay, it was weird, So just showing that with that, what a major event it's going to be with him saving his mom and bringing on the Flashpoint stuff. It'll be interesting to see how all that plays out. So yeah, I'm excited. I think more than anything, I agree. We could have they could have waited a few more seasons to get to that point, but if they're doing it now, I think they have a reason, and we'll see what season 3 Flash, if it's half as good as the first few seasons, we're in for a treat, so it should be good.
Oh yeah. And moving on to Arrow now, we had 2 big casting news come out. First one is Chad L. Coleman, originally from The Wire. He was on The Walking Dead as Tyrese. He's going to be joining the cast of Arrow for season 5 as their villain.
Right.
Not really sure how big of a villain he's going to be. What they're saying right now is he's like a mob boss.
Right.
That's going to be, trying to take over the criminal underground after Damien Dark and Hive have left the city. So it'll be interesting to see where his character goes, who he picks up along the way. I'd really like to see Count Vertigo again.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
I think he's a good character to overuse because he's got that, I'm back, now I'm in jail, now I'm back, I'm in jail again.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see him, and then we're also going to be seeing Artemis.
Right.
From the Young Justice TV run. That was my first introduction to her. The way they portrayed her was she was quote unquote Arrow's niece, which turns out that it was what's his name? Not Taskmaster.
That's true.
It might have been Deathstroke, or she was somebody's daughter somewhere.
Gotcha.
And they had brought her in. She fell in love with Wally, and they had gone off to do like a secret mission that was like a long con. So I think bringing her in into the Arrowverse, already having Wally West in the Flash universe, it gives that potential storyline.
Yeah, cool. I mean, yeah, it definitely seems like they're building up on the next season Arrow with. I mean, they announced so far the characters they've announced, pretty oddball with Vigilante, Adrian Chase, and Wild Dog. Wild Dog is one of those characters. I'm like, wait, what? Somebody remembers Wild Dog? What the? One of my coworkers, Jared, it's one of his. He was super excited because he's a super big fan of that character, and I think he's the only one because he's just an oddball vigilante character with like a hockey mask and a silly like picture of a dog on his shirt. But yeah, he's kind of what I think is a ridiculous character, and yet sure enough, someone I never expected to see on on any of the TV series or movies. So you never know. It just shows you that they're really branching out and adding all these awesome characters and maybe even some not so awesome characters. But I love the diversity we're seeing out of the DC TV universe of shows. So some really, really cool stuff coming up.
If they can do King Shark justice,
That's
I'm
true.
sure that they can do Wild Dog some justice.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. That was another one I did not expect to see anytime soon, but they definitely done a great job with it.
And then to close it out, Legends of Tomorrow, not really much news about it, but we saw our finale last month. We see the introduction of the Justice Society of America.
Right.
We see Our Man, I believe.
Yeah, you got it, Rex Tyler. Yeah, very, very cool announcement on that.
He's going to be our introduction to the Justice Society. We have a lot of characters that are from that group that are right now are on Legends of Tomorrow that can potentially move up into the society itself.
Right.
But we have a society already in place, so we might see some new characters, some fan favorites that are there. Are there any favorites that you'd like to see that show up?
I'm a really big fan of the whole Justice Society. That's one of the first few books that Jeff Johns worked on, and I think the strength that when he was first starting off as a writer, he was like, oh man, this is where it's at. I love the fact that every issue I can have, a character like Black Adam, to be a bad guy, turn into a good guy, kind of betray the team, whatever, and a character like this leaves the team, a character like this jumps on, this good person turns good, bad person turns bad, bad person turns good person turns bad, whatever. Anything can happen in that book, and that was one of the coolest things is Jeff Johns introduced a whole world of new characters and updated versions of like Dr. Midnight, a new Our Man, and just other characters that really, really had a great run that one of the coolest things about the Justice Society is the legacy, and even the very first character Jeff Johns created, who Stargirl was like based on his sister, I'd definitely like to see Stargirl, and I would be very shocked if they don't do that and go into the history of Stars and Stripes and date back to the 40s. So when he first created that character and then worked her into JSA, like he did an amazing job of updating the legacies of these characters and making you care about characters I used to know nothing about, and where just anything can happen. So yeah, Justice Society, there's plenty of characters in there that I think will be they can keep adding and keep and hopefully add some of these characters as regulars to Legends of Tomorrow and the whole CW DC universe. But yeah, I'm really excited. I think Stargirl is definitely one I'd like to see, and maybe even they'll get into the legacy of Starman, not necessarily related other than similar names, but yeah, we'll see. Rex Tyler was a cool nod to what's coming next, and also same thing. DC's doing a new Justice Society comic and kind of realizing those characters have been kind of pushed off to the side. There's a little hint about them in the DC Rebirth one shot they put out a month ago. That's pretty cool, like nod to what's come, going back to all the way to 80 years of DC history. So yeah, I think the Justice Society being in the DC CW universe is going to be really exciting.
And then to close out DC TV, we'll jump over to Fox and Gotham. We have some casting news. They're recasting Poison Ivy.
Right.
She's going to be aging up a little bit. The actress they're going for now is, I think she's in like her early 20s. So I think they're going to have her play like maybe a 15-year-old Poison Ivy.
Right.
So I'm thinking that they're going to jump. They're going to do a time skip from the end of season 2 going to season 3. Now that we have Hugo Strange as almost as like the kingpin behind Gotham's Sinister Six, essentially.
Right.
He has Fish Mooney, Firefly, Penguin, Riddler, and Clayface.
Right. So yeah, he's definitely building up a pretty awesome rogues gallery, and I think I'm a little biased, but I think Batman has, I think, the best rogues gallery in the history of comics. I think it's Batman, then Spider-Man, then surprisingly the Flash also has a phenomenal rogues gallery that Jeff Johns added a lot on his 5-6 year run on Wally West for years, but Batman hands down has this phenomenal rogues gallery of characters that there's so much history there, and it's so cool to see things where you're like, oh look, that's Clayface, oh look, they're working this in. So Gotham season 2 I think is the most improved show from season 1 that was not terrible. I know that not everyone loved it.
They slow rolled us.
Oh my god, yeah, seriously. But season 2 of that show was infinitely better, and I got a little scared when I thought, oh, they're gonna make the whole show about this Joker wannabe character Jerome, and I like the character just fine, but I was just a little afraid that they're gonna literally have the whole season be about him. So I was very happy with the whole Theo Galavan story and all the other characters breaking out, and Barbara's transformation from where she was to where she's at now. I've enjoyed all that. So I know not everyone has. The internet seems to hate that character, but for me, I've enjoyed every step of the way. And I think Gotham season 2, I look forward to as much as Flash or Arrow or any other show on TV, which is saying a lot. So yeah, it's just great. And season 3 could definitely be some cool stuff. So. We'll see what happens, but yeah, I'm excited going forward to see as they add more to the ever-growing Batman mythos. So,
is there any villain that you'd like to see them introduce that they haven't done so yet?
I do appreciate that they've stayed away from Joker, like the hint about Jerome, like him kind of laughing and like showing a bunch of other people laughing. It could be this
inspiration,
person.
Yeah.
Right, that was cool. It sounds like the next season, Tommy Elliott, who they've hinted at and like had him and Bruce get into a tiny little scrap like Hush. I hear him for season 3. We'll see him to some degree, one way or another. But yeah, I don't know. I think they're doing a good job. Penguin is absolutely phenomenal. Cannot believe how much I'm enjoying his the actor just absolutely killing it on there. The Riddler, I've enjoyed his story. Slow build up on that as well. I'm glad it wasn't like, yo, look, episode 3, here's the Riddler. They really did a great job building him from where he's at to hating Jim Gordon to where his character is right now. So yeah, I'm very happy with it. I mean, DC's done a great job of incorporating these characters and not speeding it up. I'm sure at some point we'll get a TV version of Harley Quinn, but I think obviously they want to focus on Suicide Squad and a potential, Harley Quinn solo movie and all that stuff. So I don't necessarily think it's right now, but I think Gotham, just like these other shows, will be on 5, 6, 7 years. So if they take their time and do it right, rather than rush it and burn through everything in the Batman history, I think they're definitely on the right track. So excited to see where it goes from here.
It's Jim Gordon's show.
Right.
The way they've built it, it is his show. So I'm thinking that we're gonna see more gangster power trips. We're gonna see more interactions with the mob now that Fish Mooney's back, especially.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a lot coming to us in the fall with all these goodies coming, and to close out TV, let's jump over to Marvel. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., huge favorite of mine. They closed out their third season by killing off a huge villain and a minor hero.
Right.
The huge villain being Hive, actually. Wow, that's weird.
Right, I know, right? Similar to Arrow. So.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. They killed him, they sent him into space. We get our first look at a Quinjet going into space.
That was very cool. Yeah, great moment.
That being said, that's going to tie in hopefully later on to Thor Ragnarok, where we see Thor and Hulk basically go lethal weapon.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited for that.
With Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now, it's going to be moving to 10 o'clock at night as opposed to their 8 p.m. spot.
Right.
Still staying on Tuesday nights, but moving to 10 o'clock. I think they're going to go darker.
I agree.
They're going to dive into, now that we're getting Doctor Strange and Cloak and Dagger over on Freeform Network, we're going to dive into some mysticism.
Right.
We're going to dive into some, deep, dark characters that haven't seen the light of day in a bit and that they're getting their rights back to. Most notably, there's a teasing of a possible Ghost Rider coming to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
That'd be cool, right?
They alluded to it a little bit with, in the season finale, the character, I think his name's Hellfire. He was the Australian guy that lived in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska.
Gotcha.
He had the thing underneath of his... He had something underneath of his house that he basically lived on. And Hive came in and basically was like, hey, come work for me and we'll rule the world together.
Right.
But there's a couple of interesting shots coming up from Twitter from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Handle. They tweeted a picture of the trolley that San Diego has. They run it from the convention center through downtown. It basically takes you all over, most of downtown San Diego.
Right.
The picture that they have is the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. logo with a fire chain running
that's really
underneath
cool.
of it.
Huh.
And for most hardcore fans, that is basically Ghost Rider's weapon.
Right, of course.
That's his
definitely
weapon of choice.
alluding to that. So cool.
It's a huge illusion. Inhuman Hellfire. I'm so glad I remember that.
Right.
Ghost Rider, obviously, connections through time, really. Even going back to like the Wild West with characters like Carter Slade. Now with why am I drawing a blank? Nick Cage's character. I can't remember.
Johnny Blaze.
Johnny Blaze.
Right, and then and there's Danny Ketch in the comics too, which as well with the other most popular Ghost Rider. So
yeah. So I think getting Ghost Rider back, huge move for them.
Yeah.
I was hoping for a Netflix series to go along with Punisher. We'd possibly get Marvel Knights teaming up with the Defenders eventually.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
But it looks like we're going to get him on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Now with the deeper time slot, we could get more action, a little bit more raunchy behavior.
Right.
I think having characters like Quake, she's always been a little out there with her actions. So I'm really excited to see where that's going to go.
Yeah, I'm excited just from the teaser for the next season of where Quake goes from here, just where it seems like she's on the run from Shield. They're trying to like catch up to her, and
which didn't make sense to me. Why I don't know
Right.
why she'd be on the run when she's basically their hero.
Right, exactly. I mean, well, that's just it. It's obviously a teaser for what's coming next. So obviously whatever it is, they'll work it out. I don't think it's going to be a whole season of them chasing her around, but at the same time, it definitely set what's going to happen next. Definitely got my interest, and should be good. I've enjoyed it so far. I was a little scared because I've never been the biggest Inhumans fan. There's just never been characters that I've been that attached to, and yet they did a great job of not going too deep into Inhuman history or forcing you to know everything about it. Like you have to have a PhD in Marvel history to understand where they were aiming. So they did an excellent job of making the Inhumans accessible and building it up just like they've done with the Inhuman characters the last few years in the comics. So excited to see what happens next on Shield.
Now we're going to switch over to the huge domain that we're both very excited about, which is comics. We'll start with Marvel so we can work up to our big DC news that we're both very happy about.
Right.
Marvel right now has Civil War 2 going on. It is Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers versus Iron Man.
That's correct.
I believe, yeah. Tony Stark.
You got it.
And in juxtaposition to what was going on before, it looks like Iron Man's on the side of freedom of expression this time.
Right.
He's not so much, all right, we got to rein ourselves in. He's more like, listen, I've seen what can happen when you try to rein this in. Let's try to give people more freedom, more power.
Right.
So, with that being said, have you seen anything going on in the comics that could really spice things up in that universe?
The Civil War story overall is pretty interesting. It's the short version of it is very similar to Minority Report in that there is, again, like I said, they've been building up the Inhumans characters quite a bit. There's a new character named Ulysses that is an Inhuman, and in the very beginning, he, even in the Free Comic Day Civil War special, he basically was like, hey guys, Thanos is over here and this is going on. They're like, no, Thanos is somewhere else in the universe. No, he's over here, trust me, go over here and fix this. And if you guys aren't careful, you'll die. The Avengers run in, save the day, and they're like, thank God you told us Thanos was there, otherwise we would have been in real trouble. However, one of the Avengers actually gets killed, kind of a major character, and then another one gets hurt and goes into a coma. So two major, fairly well-known characters get hurt or killed in this battle, but they're still able to save the day, and had they not stopped Thanos, it would have been really bad. So they've learned to trust this Ulysses character when he says, oh, and this is going to happen, and then it happens. He basically lets them know that, hey, this character is going to turn on you guys, and this is going to happen. You need to, sort this out now. And the whole thing is there's two sides that are, well, hey, we can talk them out of it before this thing gets too crazy, and the other side is like, no, let's immediately, just kill this person before they kill us, and it's, it's us or them. So, effectively, right now, it's in the middle of a big, Civil War issue 3 is supposed to be the big turning point. That's the next issue out in just a few weeks, in mid-July, and that's the one that supposedly will get everyone talking because they're going to kill a household name character, and it's not just, it sounds like it's going to be a literal, good guy killing them in cold blood, with no, but without giving them a chance to explain their side or go, hey, before this happens. So, yeah, it should be interesting, but we'll see what happens as far as how big the reaction is. But, of course, it's comics, so anyone that dies, just expect to see him again 6 months or a year later, just like anything else. But yeah, certainly it'll at least for a time get people talking and divide the Marvel Universe under, well, I can't trust this person anymore. They killed, someone we care about, someone we consider a friend, and yet, they think they're helping the greater good, but there must have been some other way, and it's just, nope, strike before they know that we know what's about to happen, even if they haven't made that mistake yet. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out over the Marvel Universe and comics.
Policing future crime is what it sounds like.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's where it's at, and it's someone that hasn't done anything wrong yet, just basically is kind of wants to be left alone, and yet where it's at right now is interesting to see. The characters that are behind somebody, will they still be behind somebody when they actually just either snap their neck in the in Cold Blood or whatever, or however this ends up going down. There's several rumors about who the actual killer will be, and it's again it seems like no matter what, it should be an exciting issue. But yeah, we'll see pretty soon what's going to happen there.
Let me see. Now, I'm a little out of the loop with it, but does it have anything to do with our most recent news with Captain America becoming a Hydra agent?
No, there's a lot of rumors that the Captain America Hail Hydra story. There's a new character they're introducing pretty soon. It sounds like they're going to introduce this character, Mosaic, and it sounds like the Mosaic character is, again, yet another Inhuman character, is going to be able to inhabit other people's bodies, kind of like Dead Man or almost Quantum Leap sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And he basically will end up. They've hinted that he'll be at some point he'll be, it can only go into this person, just Joe Schmo's body, and then next issue it's him in Spider-Man's body and Peter Parker's body or whatever, and it's just with that he'll have knowledge of. So it's a good thing he's a good guy instead of going, hey look, Spider-Man's Peter Parker, or whatever else, where letting the identities out of characters that aren't necessarily known. But there's a lot of, they just dropped a teaser for Marvel Now, which is Marvel's next big thing that they're going to announce some info right as Civil War 3 comes out mid-July. That Mosaic character, they're almost hinting that he'll end up in Captain America's body, and maybe realize, wait a minute, why was Cap doing this, or why did I catch Cap doing this, and maybe be the one, even though he's an unknown quantity in the Marvel Universe, this new character Mosaic is going to try and convince people Captain America's a bad guy, and good luck convincing Captain America's friends that he can't be trusted. So yeah, it should be interesting, but we'll see. They've kind of hinted that they're going to be linked just from the teaser they just dropped the other day, so we'll see. But yeah, I think outside of Captain America is obviously in Civil War, but at least right now I don't think he's in the middle of big thing, and that's why it's interesting. He's got his own interesting story going on. Will Captain Marvel and Iron Man are butting heads in Civil War over what you should or shouldn't do with what someone's future may or may not hold.
With that, let's move over to tweets coming in. Interesting. With that, let's move over to DC, where as Marvel's doing their big summer event, Civil War 2, DC decided that they're going to reset their entire universe.
Right. And
that's coming in the form of DC Rebirth. We got a little, not little, it's actually pretty big, promo issue of how they're doing it. You can explain it better than I have. I just got it today, so I'm going to take a read after we finish this up.
Right.
So
yeah, I think you'll really enjoy it. DC's done a great job. We've sold hundreds of copies and still have a decent amount left. But DC put out their whole line at $2.99, which is phenomenal. One of the things that scared me as a guy who's been selling comics for 26 years is some of the books are $4.99, $5.99 for a comic book. Like $5 and $6 for a comic is just too much. It's kind of scaring me. I would like there to still be an industry 5 or 10 years from now. I don't want to the point where people are spending $20 on a bunch of comics and then read them all in half an hour flat, and then go, did I really get my money's worth out of that? Versus a video game where you can play it for weeks and weeks for your $50 or $60 or whatever. So DC's definitely put the value back in their comics, putting out their whole line at $2.99. Every book except one is going to be $2.99, and that's over 50 books a month. That'll be at that price point. Some of the books are going to be coming out twice a month. Right now I think there's 12 or 13 books that they've announced that will be out. So instead of doing 6 different Batman titles a month, you're just going to have Batman and Detective. Batman kind of focuses more on the main Batman character with an occasional cameo by the others, but it's mostly Batman on his own, and the main story's there. Meanwhile, Detective Comics will focus on the Bat family elements of hey, here's Robin, here's Batwoman, here's Nightwing, here's Spoiler, and just this wild cast of characters that you'll see Batman kind of working with them and helping them, and then helping him, and kind of a Batman family book. But both of those books will come out twice a month, and again at $2.99 for standard size 20 pages story. They're doing a great great job so far, and they made the books all very accessible and easy to dive into. So they started them all with like Rebirth issue, so it's effectively like a 0 issue, so you can kind of get a feel for the character, and then from there it's mostly going into 5 and 6 part stories that are so far off to a great start. The DC Rebirth special is written by Jeff Johns, again, pretty much the architect of the DC universe for the last several years, and he's sat down with all the different writers to see, okay, well, what's your take on Superman? What's your take on Flash? Where do you want to be with them at issue 6, issue 12, issue 24? And kind of said, if we give you 2 years on this character, we want to make sure you have a good plan and not just run out of steam at issue 6 and go, oh, that was my one Flash story, that's all I got. That doesn't do anyone any good if you're in issue 7 and they're like, I don't know what to do now. So you want to make sure that the books going forward would be in the best hands. And sure enough, both sales-wise, critical acclaim, everything, DC got entirely behind this, and we ordered crazy amounts. Like, we were selling 20, 25 Flash before this, and we sold 100 plus Flash in about a little over a week, and it's insane how much we're selling of this. But so far, we still have every book on the shelves at cover price at $2.99. I know a lot of them are going for $10, $12 on eBay, but we have we ordered up in an unbelievable amount because DC said whatever you can't sell, you can return. Sure enough, they definitely put their money where their mouth was, and no one's returning any of these books because we ordered 250 copies of Batman, 150 of this, whatever, crazy amounts on them, and sure enough, we've sold insane amounts and have they did a great job of making them all accessible. The Superman books are the only ones that you kind of almost need a little bit of a refresher course on what happened right before, where they changed out the Superman of the New 52 universe, which was the last 6 years of DC. He just died, and then from there, the previous Superman from the pre-52 universe that had been around, the previous 75 years, he is now taking the place of that Superman, and everyone's like, wait, you're not our Superman, who's this Superman? He has a kid and he and Lois are married? Wait, in this universe Superman and Wonder Woman were together. So the Superman books are the only ones you'd almost need a little bit of a catch up on, but other than that, Batman is fully accessible, Flash is phenomenal and very accessible, and in the DC universe Rebirth special, they brought back Wally West. Even though they've had a Wally West the last few years, he really wasn't the one I grew up with. Wally West has always been my favorite Flash, and it was cool to kind of see him, kind of get brought back in the DC Universe Rebirth special, and it was fantastic. Just really, really great, touching moments, and phenomenal. The best $3 you can spend on comics the last few years is on that Rebirth special. So anyone that reads it, anything we recommend, we'll always give them money back guaranteed. No one has read this and went, I want my $3 back, because everyone's like, man, if that was, $10, I would have paid for it and been happy with it. But
especially
yeah,
with the ending.
Right. Oh yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah.
We can spoiler it.
It's a month later. Yeah, people know, right?
Yeah. Spoiler alert: if you don't want to find that out, this is your opportunity. 3, 2, 1.
Here we go. The end of the whole thing. The big revelation. No one could say they saw it coming. Some people expected Wally West and some other stuff, but the Watchmen are responsible for the New 52 universe and where DC's at now. So there's certain people missing, relationships missing, characters missing, certain years of history gone, and characters like the Justice Society and Wally West that weren't what they were supposed to be. And it has something to do with Dr. Manhattan. As Bruce Wayne is looking around the Batcave, he sees the button from Watchmen, like this smiley face button with the blood on it, and it's basically anyone reading that night was like, wait a minute, what? Holy, the Watchmen are related to DC Universe? Wait, they've kind of established they're one of the 52 Earths, and a over the top thing saying, oh look, this version is, Dr. Manhattan is this version of Earth, 51's version of Captain Atom, and Rorschach is the Question from Earth 51 or whatever, just because those characters were originally going to be based on characters DC bought the rights to from Charlton, and instead DC changed their mind. So yeah, sure enough, Watchmen ended up being a stronger book because they were able to dive into such deep subject matter. And yeah, Watchmen's one of my favorite books of all time. Of course, the internet's ablaze with controversy over how dare they do this and how dare they go against Alan Moore's wishes to incorporate this into DC, but like it or not, it's definitely got everyone talking, and it's certainly an exciting move. Even Marvel said, man, if we had the rights to Watchmen, we would have done this 20 years ago. We don't know what took DC so long to incorporate the best-selling graphic novel of all time, and definitely one of the best comics that's ever been done, and tie it right into it. So I don't think we're going to see all the groundwork laid in the next 3 or 4 months. I think it's something they'll build to a year and a half, 2 years from now. We'll see a Watchmen versus a DC universe, and most likely it sounds like Jeff Johns will probably be the one writing the big event and showing how do you fight a guy that has the powers of a god, where he's just, hey, we're going to set this guy against Dr. Manhattan. Okay, hey, not only do you not exist, your parents never met, or they died in a car crash 20 years before you were born. Okay, well that knocks that out pretty quick. It's tough to fight a guy that literally can just undo your existence in just in the blink of an eye. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes, but I have a feeling there's slowly but surely, like Flash Rebirth drops a hint or two, and some of the other books will gradually get there. So it'll be exciting to see how well that plays off in the DC universe going forward.
Do you think that's going to be a huge selling point to keep people interested with this new series?
Oh yeah, I mean, hands down. Like I said, the cool thing is we've seen a ton of new people. The Rebirth stuff has definitely been a huge success. We were able to order very, very aggressively, knowing they were fully returnable. And like I said, I don't know any store that's returning anything. Every other store I've seen is like, hey, I need 10 more of this, I need 20 more of this, can anyone spare 3 of this? I have customers that I owe and I screwed up and didn't save them copies. And it's definitely, we're seeing tons of new people in all the time, and it's just that $3 selling point is fantastic. I think DC was very brave to go with that and move forward, and so far I've got everyone from brand new collectors who've never read a comic before, and then people that have been reading for 30, 40 years that are, oh my god, this stuff's phenomenal, it's great, it's accessible, it's not it's not it's keeping my interest. So yeah, so everyone's very, very happy with everything DC's done. I'm really excited to see if they can keep the momentum going for for 6 months or a year or 2 years and hopefully beyond. So great start to DC Rebirth. So really, really happy with it, and hopefully it just continues at this pace so far.
Well put, very well put.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to see where this goes. My first introduction to Watchmen was the movie. Instantly got me hooked, and then in high school, instead of reading The Great Gatsby and Catcher in the Rye, my English teacher would toss me a copy of The Watchmen and be like, read this instead.
That's awesome. Very cool.
So shout out to my 11th grade high school English teacher. I won't name drop him because he probably doesn't want me to, but he's definitely been a huge help in cultivating my reading and just introducing me to some things that I never thought I'd be able to pick up. So
very cool.
I think introducing these characters this way, one of the best ideas that they could possibly ever do. Even if they slow roll the entire community, everybody's going to be waiting for it. They're going to keep wanting to grab at this, because this is something that, despite not wanting it, now that we've seen it, we're like, give it to me. Give it to me right now.
It's got people talking. So yeah, hands down, they're doing a great job of getting new people to check it out and returning customers we haven't seen in years. So yeah, it's exciting. It's definitely one of those things that no one can say they saw coming. Oh, clearly the Watchmen were behind this whole New 52 thing. So I think DC, was smart enough to look at what they did right and wrong in the New 52, and not afraid to say, okay, this Pandora character, and this wasn't what we wanted. Okay, well, that character's dead and gone. Let's move on. So
now, while we're on the topic of comics, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about The Walking Dead.
Right.
With their TV show, they had just announced that they had shot a death scene for everyone that was lined up in front of Negan.
Right.
Just to mess with people.
I think they announced that. I don't necessarily believe it. AMC is notoriously cheap. And same thing, I've seen reports saying, oh, they're paying the Lucille victim to sit around and do this or that. There's some characters that definitely have been spotted, and rumors that this or that. There's at least 2 actors that have not been spotted since then, and it's kind of scaring people. And then there's people that think there's a twist on it, where we actually will see more than one Lucille victim. That one character will get killed, and one character will, if not get killed, almost get killed, just as a twist, because Scott Gimple made a big deal of, we're taking a hard left turn and it's going to be different, and even though you guys are mad now at the cliffhanger, which universally pissed off everybody, Oh,
but if you didn't see it coming,
right? Of course, yeah. It was announced. It wasn't announced, but all the spoiler sites saw weeks in advance. That's what it looked like was going to happen. So, I definitely have some suspicions that it's going to take a bit of a turn from the comics, but at the same time, there's at least, if you really are looking around at the right sites, there's at least 2 people that are not confirmed to be filming, and we know at least one of them is out of the country, and one of them seems to have a lot of free time these days. So yeah, I don't necessarily really. I know they told people they probably did film a fake out or two, filming 11 different scenes. I find it highly unlikely. I mean that they would go through all that extra effort when their schedule's such a tight squeeze as it is, But yeah, I guess at this point they're already filming the 5th. I think they just started the 5th episode. They'll film almost the whole season before we even get to the mid-season break. I think they wrap in November, and the show is just closing out its first half of the season, late November, early December. So
my two characters, if I had to pick two that I would think that would be going,
right.
My first one's Daryl.
Right
off the bat, I'm guessing Daryl. Second one, out of the group that was lined up, would be most likely Abraham.
Right. I'm thinking Abraham's the most likely candidate. In the comics, he is the one that dies right before this in issue 98 instead of issue 100, which is the Lucille issue. He basically was the one that got the arrow through the head just out of nowhere, and then the whole thing with Dwight. And I think Dwight killing Denise, it was still a oh my god moment because it came out of nowhere. But on one hand, Kirkman has only said he regrets two things in the comic, and that is one, cutting off Rick's hand, which the governor did way back in issue 27, years ago. And he said he regrets doing that, but he needed a holy shit moment in that comic, and he certainly got it with that. Mm-hmm. The other thing was he regrets killing Abraham when he did, as in he wanted Abraham to be a bigger death and have a bigger moment in All Out War, which is what it's kind of leading to, which is Negan and Rick's community, having a full-on battle, and already Rick has done so much, to kill so many of the saviors, thinking, oh yeah, we got Negan already. Oh, this guy said he was Negan. Okay, well, you may have pissed him off. You killed 30 or 35 or 40 of his men, but at the same time, as you can see, he's still got tons. And there's when you guys get to see what is inside that community, I think you're going to be, if you haven't been keeping up with the comics, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised at how well set up it is, and why Dwight looks a little different now than he looked before is interesting. I thought it was really cool when they introduced Dwight, and I think Sherry and Amber, the other two characters in that episode with Daryl, and he stole Daryl's bike, and back and forth, and at one point his crossbow, and Dwight and Daryl's story isn't done yet, and even shot and wounded Daryl but didn't kill him. We'll see what happens going forward with those characters. But yeah, I definitely think Abraham is. If he's not the actual victim, he will at least be injured heavily if they do go off the comic thing and kill Glenn like they do in the comics. But I don't think they're killing Glenn. I don't think so. I think it is Abraham will be the one. I wonder if they'll have. The rumors I'm hearing are that we will see someone get killed, and then someone else will step out of line, and then Negan will stab that person. They'll survive, but at first you're going to think two people died or something. Mm-hmm. And so supposedly, I don't think it's Glenn. I think they, if they were going to do that and keep it so close to the comic, I think they would have shown it, and wish they had. But sure enough, when it comes back, it'll definitely have everyone's attention. So I do think that one character, most likely Abraham, will be killed, and then maybe Stephen. Maybe Glenn will be the one to kind of step out of line and get stabbed, and it'll be left for dead, but I think he'll survive. So we'll see where it goes, but it'll be a good, change to see where you see them do something different than they did in the comics. So it's going to be interesting either way. So definitely going to have people talking.
And now, especially with Morgan running off to the kingdom.
Right, yeah. Morgan and Carol kind of going in that direction where we'll meet Ezekiel. And I guess this year, like I said, I definitely do hit up the spoiler sites, and I'm not that guy that's going to ruin anything for anyone that doesn't want to know. But it looks like they're filming in a giant, oddly enough, Tyler Perry has a giant Atlanta thing that's 300 plus acres, and they basically are using that studio. So this year, a lot of what they're filming is locked down, where people are like, oh, well, we spotted so-and-so leaving or coming or going or whatever, and people have been checking in and well, that's so-and-so. Wait, oh, that's their stunt double. Okay, maybe they are messing with us. But a lot more of this year's filming is in the middle of nowhere because, where you can't see it. So even people that live down the street from where they're traditionally filming haven't been able to get as much information out this year. Everyone thought within a week of filming they would have the Lucille victim narrowed down, but outside of one or two people which have been, who've been filming stuff off-site, it's going to be interesting to see how long they really can keep up. You you have 16 episodes worth of paying someone to be there. It doesn't need to be there. I don't think that's really going to work that way. But yeah, it's interesting. So we'll see with them filming so much of the Kingdom stuff and Ezekiel and everything else going on. It'll be interesting to see where it goes from here.
I'm really excited to see a CGI tiger.
Right,
on AMC.
Exactly. I mean, that's just it. It's going to be, that's one thing. I guess some people in the comics were like, oh, that's where the book jumped the shark for me. But for me, I thought the Ezekiel thing made sense. I mean, it's a whole different world. There's no, TV or movies or whatever. So these people kind of picking up off of like the idea of a king and here's this guy you don't want to mess with because he has a tiger. I would definitely not mess with a guy who's got a tiger, and a tiger being able to eat and survive off of zombies and it not hurting him or anything. That's interesting. So it's going to be weird to see that, but hopefully their CGI budget lives up to the potential there. So we'll see.
Now, I know you said you aren't a huge fan of it, but I did want to talk about Game of Thrones.
Right.
We just had episode 9 happen on Sunday.
Right, everyone went nuts over it, right? Yeah,
it was phenomenal.
Right, yeah.
If you're a fan, whether you're not a fan, you know that most episodes of Game of Thrones, there's lots of dying. There's lots of battles. There's lots of boobs.
Right.
Episode 9 traditionally is where we have our big battles and deaths. This season's episode 9 is no different. Aptly titled Battle of the Bastards, we see Jon Snow and Ramsay Bolton face off for King of the North and Lord of Winterfell, essentially.
Right.
And earlier this season, end of last season, we see Jon Snow get killed. Earlier this season, he gets brought back to life by the Red Witch.
Right.
To lead the army of the North, full of wildlings and other House Stark loyals, into battle against these people. I want to say, from the article I was reading, it was 43. It was either, it's really weird numbers off, but either 10 million or 43 million to shoot this episode. I think it was 10 million to shoot the episode.
Jeez, I'll believe it, right?
Just to have, I know you didn't watch it, but just to explain it to you, their battle scene is, to start it off, one of the main characters, who's a Stark, runs out into no man's land in the middle of the battlefield.
Right.
And he takes an arrow right through the chest from Ramsay.
Exactly.
John's there. He's like almost as far away from the table as we are, like right now.
Right.
And he's like, what happened?
Yeah.
And everybody's mad, like, why the fuck didn't you run a serpentine pattern, you idiot?
Yeah. Right.
You basically ran in a straight line. Of course he's going to take an arrow right through your chest.
Right.
So, we see that. Of course, Jon Snow gets angry. He makes the wrong decision to have his forces charge into battle.
Right.
Basically led by, a giant, who... Why the fuck doesn't the giant have, like, a tree or, like, a human being that he could swing around?
There you go.
But, like, he runs into battle. What happens is the horses' wall of death crash, and bodies are flying everywhere, horses are flying everywhere.
Right.
By the time you get to the middle of the battle, there are mountains of bodies.
Right, exactly.
Mountains of bodies, probably as tall as, where you have the Infinity Gauntlet sitting up there.
Right. Jeez.
And there's, like, just 3 or 4 giant piles of that. And then surrounding them, you have Jon Snow's forces. They've been surrounded. Mm-hmm. They are completely caught in a trap. Ramsay Bolton gets this smug look, like, I've won. I can't believe it. How could you be this dumb? And then at the last second, your Deus Ex Machina scene is Peter Baelish, also known as Littlefinger, comes in with Sansa Stark and has the Knights of the Vale, who the King of the Vale is Robin Arryn, and he is cousins with the Starks. They all live in the north. They all know each other. They're all family. He comes in. They have 500, 1,000 men on horses just come in and rush the surrounding forces, and it gives John and his men the opportunity to go up and start storming the castle. We see the giant punch through the door, rip it out, and barge into the castle, followed by the leader of the wildlings and Jon Snow. Ramsay puts an arrow through the giant, and then we see Jon Snow and Ramsay go for a one-on-one fight, which was proposed by Jon at their initial meeting, saying, this doesn't need to happen.
Right.
If you fight me right now, we can settle this. And of course he says, no, go to hell. And now he's stuck in the position where he's like, all right, I guess I have to.
Right, yeah.
Instead of, fighting sword to sword, Ramsay picks up his bow that he's been using the entire time and starts firing arrows. Jon picks up a shield, drops his sword, and just keeps, blocking arrows with the shield just masterfully.
Right.
Like, almost to the point where you're just like, all right, I know this is scripted, but even then, come on.
Right, yeah.
It can't be that good.
Right.
And then, lunging the shield in, knocking Ramsay to the ground, beating the piss out of him, and then throwing him in a cage.
Right.
And, the end of the episode is Ramsay getting eaten by his own dogs.
Gotcha.
So, spoiler alert.
Right.
But, with Game of Thrones, it's not every episode like that. There's a lot there's a lot of, all right, this character's little side quest going on.
Yeah.
There's this, unimportant stuff to the main story, but for this person's character development, this needs to happen.
Yeah.
And leading up to that, there was a lot of that this season. And
right.
I feel like there was a lot of stuff that was rushed, and with a TV show like this, you have the opportunity, because they're saying that their next 2 seasons are going to be shorter.
Right.
Why would you rush some of this stuff when you can make the episodes next season? You can get more episodes, tell the same story, and still get all the pertinent information out there.
Right, I agree. I mean, I understand, like, same thing. I know it's funny that this is the first season that's ahead of the books. It's kind of weird that George R.R. Martin hasn't finished the books people have been waiting forever on.
I think next week he'll be like, hey, I'm writing the last page right now, give me 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's just funny. I mean, it just kind of cracks me up that it's like, I understand you can't race to get the stuff done. Obviously at this point the show is ahead of the books, but it's obviously this giant phenomenon that everyone loves, and it is weird to me that they're not going to do as many episodes when it's so well loved, and everyone's just all over the show, and really enjoys it, so it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, this one, it sounded like was the big, filled with all the big battle, and this giant battle and all the moments everyone wanted to see. So everyone seemed very happy with it.
I really wanted to touch on that because you have this weird thing where you're just like, anything that doesn't have technology in it
right.
has no interest to me whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm a weird dude. I'll watch the shittiest horror movie on earth, but yeah, for some reason, if it's set before cell phones and computers, I have very little interest in it. I'm kind of a weird in my ways. It could be the most brilliant World War I period piece, and I just don't. Not for me. I know I won't pretend that it's funny, because in comics I feel like I've got pretty good taste, but I will watch the shittiest, craziest one-star horror movie on Netflix and be good with that. But I'll pass on a show like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings or something. Medieval time and fantasy has just never been my thing. So I'm well aware the show is great. I know I'll probably at some point break down after it's only been years and years of everyone going, you need to watch this show, but for some reason I'm just not big into medieval stuff or fantasy or whatever, so it just hasn't been my genre. So I know it's great. I'm not hating on the show. I just haven't got into it because it's just not my genre. I know I'm a weird dude, but just what is what it is.
And then I think to wrap this up, we'll end on a universal favorite of everybody's, whether you grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, or even like myself growing up in the 90s, early 2000s, a huge favorite of everybody's is Power Rangers.
Right.
And being that they are universally accepted characters that even in Japan they're very widely renowned and stuff like that, we have some huge casting news coming out for it, and that is the great Bryan Cranston will be playing the character Zordon.
Right. That's so funny, right?
Having him go from Malcolm in the Middle to Breaking Bad to now being a head in a jar in a movie it's a very weird like career move like for somebody like him.
Right.
I would never understand why somebody would do that, but like just getting your name out there and like saying, hey, I was part of this. Like maybe he has like some weird connection to it where it's like, I really like this, you know, I got to interact with maybe my kids or something when they were growing up. We shared an interest in this,
right?
So maybe that's why he's doing it.
I'm under the, if I'm not mistaken, I thought he actually played a tiny part as like a villain in an episode or two of the old school Power Rangers. So I believe that's the case. I'm not crazy. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really watch too much Power Rangers. Sean and my other coworkers here definitely are a little more with it than I was. But yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he played a very small villain that appeared in a handful of episodes, so I think he has a previous connection, as hysterical as that is, because I think that ended up being like a silly trivia question or something. So yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was in there in the past somewhere. But yeah, that is definitely funny. Here's this award-winning actor that's been on one of the most like acclaimed shows of all time, and to see him in a Power Rangers movie is definitely kind of funny. So
yeah, let's see. I don't think there's any other news. Yeah, the only other thing that possibly we could talk about would be Transformers, but there really isn't much coming out about that. We have Michael Bay reveals first look at new Autobot, but you know, even then, that's not really anything huge. Unless, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to hit on real quick?
I think we nailed most of what's going on as far as all the big geek news and stuff like that, covering movies and TV. I mean, it's just it's an exciting time to be into all this geeky stuff. I mean, there's more good superhero TV shows and things, even stuff like iZombie and other things people don't necessarily realize are based on comics. I mean, that show has been, both seasons have been great. Both season finales on that I've enjoyed quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And there's just a lot of cool stuff. Hopefully these next few years we'll continue to see such a big amount of new things based on comics. The Owlcast TV show, everyone who's watched that so far seems to enjoy it. That's definitely one that's been well received. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but my coworker Jared, his demonic possession is his favorite genre of horror and one of his favorite things ever, and he's loved the show. He's liked the book, and the book's was kind of a very, very slow burn getting to where it needed to be, but where it's at now is really, really good. The comics are definitely getting more interesting, and the show is just off to a great start. Everyone's really seems to be enjoying that so far.
I just remember too, Preacher.
Right. Oh yeah.
Really, really enjoying Preacher so far.
Right.
Dominic Cooper and Ruth Negga, fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And I think Cassidy is becoming my favorite vampire of all time.
Oh, hands down, yeah. Joseph Gilgun as Cassidy. I mean, he was phenomenal as Rudy in Misfits. When they announced the other two casting decisions, I was like, oh, cool, awesome. But the way he's playing Cassidy is just absolutely perfect. He was dead on the best possible choice they could have ever come up with. And when they announced him, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be perfect. And yeah, hands down, he's just definitely taken it and run in the right direction with it. And Cassidy is definitely a very good, incredibly likable, asshole, crazy, character for being this crazy vampire drug addict that's just out of his damn mind. And some of the stuff he says is unbelievable. But they got the perfect person to do it. And so far, yeah, Preacher's off to a good start. This most recent episode I thought was really good, and he's really coming to terms with what he can do, and where it's going to go from here is going to be exciting. But yeah, I definitely am enjoying it. The cast all around. Jackie Earle Haley, I was very excited when I was like, wait a minute, oh, he's in this too. He's always great in everything, and as you find out more about Odin Kincannon, he is a very unique character that going forward, if they go straight from the comics on that, it's going to be Interesting. But Preacher, the comics themselves are phenomenal. That's hands down one of my probably top 5 series of all time, and just literally kept me in comics when everything in the 90s and superheroes was terrible. It was books like Preacher and Transmetropolitan that kept me in comics, so I'm so excited to see it adapted for the small screen, and so far it's off to a great start. I know there was a lot of controversy when people were like, Seth Rogen, wait a minute, this guy makes stoner comedies, but man, he is a lifelong comic fan, and it's obvious that he really has so much respect for the source material, even to the point where people were like, Garth Ennis, are you going to be involved like Robert Kirkman is for Walking Dead? And he's like, nope, I read the first few scripts, they don't need me, they've got this down right, and they are nailing it this first season of where they want to go, and the pace they're putting it at is just perfect. And they moved a few things up and a few things back and whatever, but everything from R-Space and Sheriff Root and just all these characters, very, very interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from here.
I never thought I'd see a character with an asshole for a mouth.
Right, yeah.
And actually make it be good.
Right, exactly. And just it's hysterical that his dialogue is subtitled so you can understand, just like in the comics. So it's great. They're doing an awesome job with Preacher, and I'm excited to see see it. I'm not sure. I haven't paid attention too much to how it's doing the ratings wise. Hopefully it's strong. But yeah, it's definitely a very enjoyable series, and the comics are phenomenal. So yeah, by all means, definitely check that book out if you're enjoying the show, because there's so many great moments in there, and hopefully we'll see more Garth Ennis stuff. I know they're talking about The Boys and some other stuff, but hopefully we'll continue to see more stuff outside of superhero stuff hit the small screen and big screen.
And then the last two things I wanted to talk about, not much news coming out about them, and I'm hoping to see more the next time we sit down. That is the Dark Tower series,
right? Oh yeah,
which has Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey so far signed on to it, and the other thing is Twin Peaks.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm a huge Twin Peaks fan. Love that show. Way back when it first aired, and it's David Lynch. I've never liked his movies as much as I've liked Twin Peaks. His movies, there's some that are just like, what the hell is happening? And not that there's not a few moments like that in Twin Peaks, but the insane, I think there's like 216 people the Twin Peaks cast list, and David Lynch crazy ass just announced like a music festival or something, and like most of the cast of Twin Peaks is going to be there. But it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see all the new people they've added, and just if the show is half as good as the original, I'm excited, because that was definitely another show I loved, and definitely excited to see it come back. It looked like it was going to happen, then it wasn't, then it kind of fell apart. But yeah, they definitely have all the major elements they need, and a great new cast. So I'm excited. It's funny to see some like pretty A-list movie stars kind of sign on and see who's in there. But yeah, it's going to be good.
And then, like I said, Dark Tower having Matthew McConaughey, Idris Elba. I think that being Stephen King, right? I want to say
totally.
Stephen King's novels being adapted for the small screen,
right?
And it looks like they're going to go small screen, movie,
big screen, right? Yeah,
back to small screen, then another movie,
right?
Almost like X-Files did a little bit.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of interesting. It's they talked about it a few years ago of adapting it in that format, and then it sounded like it was going to fall apart. So I'm glad to see that. It's going to be interesting, and if that succeeds, to see more TV shows, the movies, and back and forth. That's such an interesting setup. But sure enough, the Dark Tower series is this phenomenal series of books and graphic novels that we've done really, really well with. And overall, I think if they, it sounds like they've got the cast on the right track. So yeah, there's a lot of potential there to hopefully bring those to life with the right people. So yeah, I'm excited to see those two.
And then one more just hit me. I think this is it. Westworld.
Right.
We had a release date, I think, come up. I can't remember it, and I don't want to go searching for it because I feel like it'll take a while. But they finished production. It looks like we have a release date for it coming. Their main claim to fame right now is when they did their first open casting call, they were looking for close to 500 people willing to be nude in public,
right?
To basically be like life model decoys in a theme park,
right?
So you would have to do like very almost robotic type movement, but keep it natural in a sense,
right?
So having that be their first casting call, be hey, we need about 500 people to be nude in public. Show up if you're interested.
Right.
And they had more than enough people do
Right.
it.
Yeah, that's wild.
So I'm really excited to see where that's going to go, and I think that's it for all the news, at least for now. Hopefully we'll have just as much or more next time we sit down. Did you want to do any plugs, any future events you're going to be doing?
We basically just locally we do weekly trivia, which is a pretty fun thing over Broken Barrel Tavern over here in Melbourne, Florida. We're pretty lucky to have a great partnership with them. Just friends with the owners for years, and every Sunday night at 7:30 we are able to do whatever the hell we feel like, which is pretty fun. Some weeks there's only a few teams. Other weeks we just had Disney trivia a few weeks ago. We had about 175 people. Filled that place up front and back, and we're usually in the back room, which holds up to about 8 or 10 teams back there. And next few weeks coming up, my favorite TV series of all time is Lost, so we're doing some Lost trivia that my friend Karen wrote. She actually was published in like the I think the official episode guide to Lost. She is in she took notes, watched every episode literally 6, 8, 10 times, and can tell you every little thing. Oh, what's Sawyer's license plate number from the one scene over here? Oh, okay, that's L1539. I'm like, Jesus, like she really just studied that show like her life depended on it, and it really did a lot for her. So this week, June 26th, we're doing Lost trivia. July 3rd, we have Game of Thrones trivia, covering all the way up through this season of Game of Thrones. July 10th, we have Tim Burton movie trivia. July 17th, we have we're doing 90s and 2000s cartoons. And then July 24th, we are doing Star Trek trivia based on just the movie, so Star Trek movie trivia. And then early August, we're going to do another Disney thing. We're going to do Once Upon a Time, all sorts of stuff. But it's fun every week doing trivia based off your favorite geek shows and movies and all that stuff. And every week we give away at least $100 in gift cards to Famous Faces and Broken Barrel. The top 3 teams that end up winning something, and just a very, very cool event. So we have that. We have a comic roundtable once a month. We get together and just talk nerd TV shows, movies, kind of like this, and that's always fun. Usually in the middle of the month. And we're just lucky to have all that. You can check out our store's Facebook page at facebook.com/FFFcomics, as in Famous Faces and Funnies, FFF Comics, COMICS at, and that's and you can also find us on Twitter at FFF Comics or Instagram or any of that stuff. So by all means, and those of you that are local, anything you check out at our store we recommend. You got a money back guarantee. Any of the DC Rebirth stuff, any books we've talked about here, anything from Preacher, Watchmen, or whatever. If you're checking out anything and for some reason it's not your cup of tea, bring it back. But maybe once a month someone goes, this was okay, it wasn't for me. But we're pretty laid back about it. So that's mostly what's going on here at Famous Faces and Funnies.
All right. I think we're gonna wrap it up right there. This has been episode 19 of Cappuccino Cunnilingus with the owner of Famous Faces and Funnies here in Melbourne, Florida. Tune in next month, where hopefully we'll have just as much news, if not more, to talk about after San Diego Comic-Con, which is probably the biggest geek expo in the world.
Of course, yeah.
So let's call it right there. Thank you for coming on.
Of course, yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me.
All right.